All right, welcome back. So it's been a little while since video here, so we're going to do one. I just got back from another trip to Cuba, Havana, and other places, Vinales, and had a great time. So get a lot of questions about how you can go to Cuba, and I'll go through that. I figure I'll do kind of a joint video. Sorry for those who aren't interested in that and more interested in the cigar or vice versa, but I also am going to talk about the most famous cigar, Cuban cigar, the Cohiba, and all about it, the price, and you know what I think about it. We'll do a review, and as I'm doing a review, I'll talk about the steps you go to get to Cuba. You know, there's a lot of fake Cuban cigars that you can find in the States, and I found the best way to avoid getting a fake one is go to Havana yourself and try them out from there. So let's take a look here. First, do kind of a watch check for those that are interested. So this is a Seiko and Nanta. Seiko makes phenomenal watches. If you've seen any of my other videos and I talk about Seikos, they're just a phenomenal watch, as good as anything out there. Grand Seikos certainly rival Rolex and so forth, but the Ananta is just a fantastic watch. So take a look at that, and then we have some Larry Hammond's boots, ostrich boots. I don't wear these too much. I got them out just kind of for the video here, so I don't wear them a whole lot. So we got some of the puppies here. The greyhounds are kind of relaxing. Liza's asleep. Jenny's I'm waiting to see if I'm going to let her out and do some hunting. And our new chocolate lab is somewhere. He may make an appearance, but we'll see. So let's open up the humidor and take a look at what we got inside. So first drawer is just a bunch of interesting stuff. Diamond Crown Maximus, some Davidoff, a variety of things that I picked up. But drawer number 2 are the Habanos. And I may do some videos about some of these later. I got some kind of unusual ones. That one's got a tearing at that San Cristobal. But I got Por Laranja, Punch, Romeo, Bolivar. We got the Monte Cristo, the Open Master, and the Upman, and a couple of Monte Cristo torpedoes. Got quite a few of the old standard, the Partagas Series D number 4, and a really good cigar. I really love this Oil de Monterey Epicure number 2. But what we're going to talk about today, in particular, these two cigars right here. This is a Cohiba, and then we've got the Behique. And the interesting thing about these, and we're going to try one of these Cohibas, because the price of Cuban cigars has gone up dramatically. So this cigar in the cigar shop in Cuba, from the authorized cigar shop, is about $70, $66 to $70, somewhere in there. And believe it or not, these Behiques, this Behique, get it focused in there, is literally like $160, $170 in Cuba. So just crazy price increases that Cuba has experienced. Now some of the other ones, anywhere $10, $12, $15, about comparable to what cigars you get in the States, non-Cubans. But this Cohiba is a really good cigar. We'll see how this one tests out. But we'll give this a shot, and then I want to talk about the whole idea of going to Cuba. And one of the things that I'll mention before I get into the cigars is the money, right? So Cuban money, a big issue or something that comes up is what do I use in Cuba, you know, and you can see here, I'll kind of lay out some of this Cuban money. So you can go and so the Cuban money here, you can see some of it. Looks like I'm rich. There's $10, 20s. We got, man, we're rolling in it here. We got the $200 bill. We got $1,000 bill. I mean, we're just rolling in Cuban cash. The only problem is, it's just not worth a whole lot. This $10 Cuban bill is worth a little less than 10 cents. So it takes $150 to get to $1 American dollar. So this $200 bill seems like you're rich, right? Yeah, that's just slightly over $1 American. And 1,000, you know, hey, I got a couple of those. I put that with a 500, and $1,500. I've got about $10. So you know, that's Cuban currency. Now, I get a little bit of Cuban currency when I go to Cuba, because sometimes you just need it for local things, and you know, especially anything run by the government. You know, if you go to any kind of museum or go see anything, then you may need Cuban money. But for the most part, they will, sorry for the round and round here, we'll get back and we'll get this cigar lit. They will gladly accept U.S. dollars. In fact, they want them. And that's just part of it. They know their currency is in bad shape, and the U.S. dollars the strongest currency that you can really get. So anyway, so let's talk a little bit about this as I light up this Cohiba here. Again, Cohiba, kind of the most world famous of the Cuban cigars, so you might say, geez, that seems like a lot of money, $70 for this cigar. And that is a lot of money. But did I pay that? No. Because in Cuba, the interesting thing about it, something to keep in mind if you go, they have a huge black market, or as some call a gray market. And so if you know somebody who knows somebody, they can get almost, well, not almost anything, but a lot of things, especially cigars, right from the factory, from the workers. The workers get a certain number of cigars that they get on a weekly basis. And if you know somebody who gets those, you can get Cuban cigars for substantially less than the retail price. Sometimes you might get ones that are junk. They're not real. They're not what they purport to be. But if you have a good source like I do, then you get some legitimate ones at a good price. So this cigar has a ton of smoke. Nice medium thickness smoke, great flavor. All Cuban cigars have a little bit of saltiness to it. It's kind of that sand there. The joke is that they're rolled on the thighs of virgins, and so maybe she had a sweaty, salty thigh. But, I've been in the cigar factories. It is true. Sometimes they do roll them on their thighs, but nonetheless, they're great cigars. Great flavor. Not an overpowering cigar. Just a nice flavor. Unique. You won't go into an American cigar store and get a cigar that taste exactly like this. It's just Cuba has, you know, different soil, and so it's not, it's kind of a nuanced difference. You have to be probably a pretty regular cigar smoker to appreciate the difference, but very rare do you get any bitterness, harshness, or spiciness in Cuban cigars. They're flavorful. We also have a mild complexity to them, very creamy. Nice cigar. This Cohiba is an excellent cigar, excellent taste, excellent draw. Construction looks great. The wrapper is beautiful, oily. Wouldn't really call it a Maduro, but it's certainly not a Connecticut, so it's a darker shade. It's Havana leaf. So, great cigar. So anyway, so as I said, you know, Cuba has this black market, and of course we know their government is communist, but the people there, at least the people that I've run into, are probably more capitalist than people in America, in the United States. The people there are very hardworking. Most of them have multiple jobs, and they work side jobs, and they work the black market to survive. You know, they can't survive otherwise, or if they do, it's a very minimal existence. You know, my friend who's a tour guide used to be a lawyer in Cuba, and I think he said he made like $40 to $50 a month as a lawyer. His wife is a dermatologist. Their medical system, by the way, their medical school is very good. She makes $60 a month. So he got in the tourist business because he, you know, just can't make it with a family. Certainly, even an individual making it on that would be quite hard to do. So, taxi driver that we had last time, a real great guy, is a chemist, and no longer a chemist. He's a taxi driver because he makes more money as a taxi driver. So anyway, to get to Cuba, what you need to do, you can't go as a tourist. You have to go as one of the defined categories that you can find that our government allows you to go. The easiest one is one called Support for the Cuban People. And you've probably heard me talk or others talk about that. But that's an authorized method of travel, but you have to you don't have to apply for it. You just check the box when you are booking your flight, but it does require you to keep a journal, and you want to engage in activities that are not tourism. They're you know, supporting capitalistic ventures, democracy, talking to people, that type of thing. Now you can go to tourist areas, but that should not be the primary reason for your trip. And so some of the things that they say you do, you know, if you take a walking tour, food tour, stay at an Airbnb or a private residence, eat at private restaurants, book private taxis, talk to the people, those type of things, that's all part of Support for the Cuban People. They also are in dire need of supplies there, especially like medicine. So when we go, we usually take medicines like Tylenol and different things that they may appreciate and give it to them. I had some of these BioFreeze patches that are good for back pain, and my tour guide's wife had just undergone a hysterectomy, and she's in a lot of pain, and he was about in tears when he saw that I brought those, you know. So, you know, I bring toys for the kids, different stuff, you know, that they may not be able to get because of the embargo. So when you book your flight, and I typically fly via Southwest, and some people say, well, do you got to go through Canada? Yeah, no. Typically, there's a connecting flight that goes through Fort Lauderdale, Tampa, or Miami. And so wherever you're coming from, you're going to connect there and then go directly to Havana from South Florida. Yeah, and that's no problem. The flights are fairly inexpensive. You do have to have health insurance, but not like the health insurance you get through your employer. You have to purchase it separately. No worries though, because that is automatically purchased for you by the airline and is part of the price of your ticket. And the ticket ranges typically $250, $300, about $200 to $400 each way. So you know, if you get there $500 round trip, that's a pretty good deal. Always book through an Airbnb. And I've done that many times. I've had great experiences. What I would suggest is you look on Airbnb, plug in Havana, the dates that you're thinking about going, and then also do a further refined search for what they call the super hosts, right? The hosts that have just all basically 5-star ratings. You may pay a little more, but the prices are cheap comparatively. I've always had good experiences there. And a lot of your hosts can book a tour guide for you, and I'd recommend that. Going to Havana is not something that I would recommend that you just sort of do and not have sort of a guide or somebody lined up. But your Airbnb host can easily hook that up for you. And the prices for the guides are incredibly inexpensive compared to, you know, what you'd pay here in the States. So I've developed some really good friendships with many of my guides, and it's just fantastic. And I wound up finding my guide through my Airbnb host. So look on Airbnb, take a look at the reviews of the places. Make sure they're a super host, and you can find, you know, if you're going to go with a group of guys. I've done that. I've gone with couples. We've, you know, booked the whole house, you know, and it's going to be, you know, the first time I went, I think there were 3 of us, and we booked one house, 3 guys, and it was $100 a night divided by the 3 of us. It was crazy. It's $33 a night, right? And we each had our own room. We had the whole house. Typically the guest master is there on site, kind of out of sight, but there if you need them. They typically will give you the breakfast option. I would definitely recommend that. The Cuban breakfasts in the homes are fantastic. Usually $5 to $7. It's the best $5 to $7 you'll ever spend. You get Cuban coffee, fruits, eggs, bread. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And then your guide can likely hook you up if you want to take a tour of the cigar factories, take you to the La Casa del Habanos. Those are the Cuban cigar stores. And often your guide can get you a deal on cigars. And, you know, technically if you buy them from the guide, you're supporting capitalistic ventures rather than going to a store that may be owned by the government. So you can do that. Airbnb, highly recommended. You don't want to rent a car in Cuba. It's just everything I've heard is just not recommended. And there is heavy police control in Cuba, so I wouldn't want to get in trouble in Cuba. I think their laws are different. It's a communist country, so I wouldn't push that. That being said, it's very safe. I found Havana, even in the heart of the city, to be much safer than virtually any American city I've ever been in, and way more safe than Mexico. So you'll feel safe, you'll be safe, but you don't want to push it, because there's a fair amount of police presence. So don't rent a car, because you don't want to get, in an accident, speeding, anything. You just don't want to have to deal with that. And there's a lot of police checkpoints if you're going outside of Havana that you get stopped, and so you want to get a taxi. So your host at your Airbnb, that's kind of the key. They can arrange a taxi for you. They got all the cool old classic American cars from the 50s. So you can get those. You can get a regular taxi. Many of the folks there speak English. It's a Spanish-speaking country, so knowing some Spanish is helpful, but not necessary. Take Google Translate, download that onto your phone, so that you'll have that if you get in a jam. And tour, take a tour of the factories. We go out to the countryside. We see where they farm the tobacco. We take tours of the tobacco plantations. It's primarily in Vinales, a couple hours away. Again, inexpensive for the most part to get there. If you're an American, your credit cards will not work. That's not because the Cubans don't want to take them. They'd love to take them, but our embargo, the U.S. banks, do not authorize transactions in Cuba. So it is a bit of a drawback. You have to take cash, and plenty of it. If you're gonna buy cigars, buy souvenirs, buy anything, you're gonna need to have cash. Tips, taxi rides, dinners. The Airbnb is typically paid online, so you don't worry about that. But everything else, for the most part, you need cash. So don't have a backup of a credit card. Your ATM, there's no ATMs. There's no way to get cash once you're there. So bring more than what you think you'll spend. Again, very safe country. I've not ever had an issue. Just don't be stupid about it. Don't wave it around. Keep it secure. The money, as I said, for the most part, U.S. dollar be taken most places. It's about 150 to 1 in the peso. In fact, a lot of the prices are in U.S. dollars. So you can, if you need a little bit of Cuban cash, like those pesos I was showing, usually your Airbnb host can arrange that. And you can also exchange at the airport. Either way. So I covered how to get there, the guidelines, the taxi, the Airbnb, take some tours, enjoy the food. The food's great. I always feel much healthier when I'm there. They don't have all the crap in their food that we do. If you like seafood, it's a phenomenal place to go. It's surrounded by the ocean, so you get a lot of seafood options. Lobster's great, cheap. Most meals, we go out, we have fantastic meals. They have a cappuccino before. A lot of places it's kind of open air. You can smoke cigars in the restaurants. It's fantastic. But you have, say, cappuccino, then you have some kind of fruit smoothie, then you have an appetizer, then you have your main course, it's maybe lobster, fresh fish. The pork is good, chicken's good. You'll have a bunch of side dishes, rice, vegetables, all these things. A dessert, coffee afterwards, and typically it's going to cost you about 20 bucks. So it's crazy cheap, and that's more expensive than it was prior to the inflation that hit after COVID. So you'll have a great time. You'll eat great. Smoke cigars. Not going to tell you. You know, the regulations are that you cannot bring cigars back in, or rum, alcohol. I'll leave that to your discretion, whether or not you want to or not. So, obviously I'm smoking a Cuban cigar. I could have got there, I could have got through Switzerland or somewhere, mailed to me, I'm not saying. So back to this Cohiba, it's great. It's burning well, evenly, smooth, no problems on the draw. Sometimes you hear, you know, the quality control with Cuban cigars is not as good as maybe Nicaragua and the bigger factories. I don't know that that's necessarily true. I think the quality is pretty good. Quality control wise, the quality of the tobacco is just phenomenal. So would I pay $70 for this cigar? I mean, occasionally I might, you know, it's that good. But I like what I paid for it in Cuba. The cigar in Canada is probably like crazy. I can't even imagine, because Canada adds taxes on it, so it's got to be 150 bucks maybe, I don't know. So I don't think I'd pay that. Anyway, hope you found this somewhat insightful. Yeah, I wish the best for my friends that I've met in Cuba. They're going through some hard times. They can certainly use more Americans coming there. They are so welcoming, so friendly. You know, I just feel when I go there, I have a great cultural experience. I smoke great cigars. I don't drink anymore, but if I did, I'd certainly indulge in their Cuban rum. You know, and I feel like, you know, they're so grateful that we came. They are hurting financially. A lot of the government controls are not helpful, and at some point things will probably change in Cuba, so everything will change. So hopefully for the better for the people, but it's an awesome place to go now. It'll change, so I encourage you to go see it now. You know, it's a phenomenal place if you love cigars. It's the, you know, it's the motherland of cigars, you know, Mecca. So, all right. Well, I'm going to continue to enjoy this, and we'll see you next time. We never did get a chocolate lab sighting, but we got little Daisy here. And Liza's woke up. Jenny's keeping watch as always. So take care. We'll see you soon.